You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 165. Are you a clinician, a provider, a psychotherapist of some sort who wants to be able to accept insurance as part of your private practice setup? If this is already a part of your business or something that you want to add or include in some way, then you have to understand what it means to work with a third-party payer, and you have to understand insurance billing. This is not the sexiest topic out there, I know, which is why I haven't actually gone into this in a whole lot yet on the Ideal Practice podcast. But you know what? We need to talk about this. And I have a treat for you today. My guest, Jeremy Zug, made this whole conversation so much more delightful than I thought it was going to be. And I think you are going to not only learn a lot, I think you're going to love it. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host, and I am delighted to be having this conversation with and for you today. If you've been following me for any length of time, then you know that I actually still to this day run a small counseling practice of my own, but I have been a self-pay practice only for almost 10 years at this point, y'all. So I have not worked in the insurance world for a long time. I did, though. I did do that for a very long time. I had a very full group practice. I had a very full private practice. And I worked with lots of insurance companies and have lots of battle scars from that experience. What I have not done here on the Ideal Practice Podcast is have a guest on where we can talk in some detail about the ins and outs of insurance billing. And I know that many of you have practices where this is either all or part of the way you're getting paid. So we need to dig into this a little bit. We need to learn more about it. And today's guest is just the guy to help us with this. I'm so excited to introduce you to Jeremy Zug. Jeremy is a nationally recognized leader in the sort of healthcare operations side, the financial optimization, specifically for mental and behavioral health professionals. That's what I love about him. We are his people. Specifically, we are his people. And as an expert in insurance billing and what he calls revenue cycle management, y'all, which is just basically the whole kit and caboodle about how you get paid, he and his company are all about helping us achieve a higher level of financial well-being and operational excellence, which we need. He and his wife, Catherine, co-founded their company, Practice Solutions, back in 2017. They offer an expanded medical billing service, which provides all kinds of professional support, education, and a really wide range in terms of level of support, from teeny tiny practices with one person all the way up to mega practices that have offices in several states. They serve lots of folks, and it's easy for me to see why they are so popular. Catherine and Jeremy have this combined knowledge that comes from their own experience with the mental health world back in their college days, and you'll hear him talk about this a little bit in the interview. They bring this background to their company's success in helping you and me enjoy a higher level of financial well-being. Let's say it like that. To put it bluntly, to put it simply, Jeremy is a trusted voice in the business side of the mental health world, of the private practice world. And I think he's got some really good stuff to share. I learned a lot today, and I think you're going to learn a lot too. And Jeremy, you know, he's easy to talk to. You're going to like this guy. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right, everyone. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host. You have already heard a little bit about my guest today. So without wasting a moment, let me go ahead and bring him on board. Jeremy, say hi to everybody.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And thank you, Wendy, for having me on. It's great to be here.
I'm so excited, which is a weird thing to say about a conversation about insurance
Yeah.
billing.
I was at a conference once and we were talking about the thing I know a lot about. And one of the guys I was talking with said, I didn't think that the insurance guy would be like the funnest guy to talk to here. And I think that's a nice compliment.
That is a nice compliment. You should totally put that into your marketing.
Yeah.
I'll be the funnest guy you've ever talked to about insurance. Trust me, it won't be
Yeah.
nearly as painful. Totally, you should put that into your marketing. That's great. I
Yeah,
love
it
that.
is stressful, and you and I have talked about this, that this topic about taking insurance in private practice can feel dry or stressful or complicated,
Yeah.
and you've had your own, narrative
Yes, I
around
have.
and
Yeah.
story around taking insurance and then not taking insurance, so
Yes, I have.
it makes sense.
I have battle scars to prove that. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a story. I think I'm not going to tell that story today, but I will tell you guys what Jeremy's referring to is I told him that back, y'all know I ran a very full group practice for 25 years, and I had a very full private practice where I saw 25 people or more a week for a long time. And I went through 7 different billing services and lots of stories there we'll save for another day before I finally said enough is enough and quit all that kind of stuff. Jeremy is not that story. This Jeremy is a new story. So I always love for people to know, tell everybody where you are in the world, because I just love that part about podcasting. And then a little bit about who you serve and how you serve them.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So I live in Detroit, and Detroiters who are fans of Detroit will say like Detroit, Detroit. So we're not in Metro Detroit. I
Mm,
live in Detroit in a neighborhood here. Detroit's really coming back. So I'm a big Detroit fan and
mm,
everything Detroit. So the Lions, everybody loves the Lions. The Tigers right now are doing really well. All the cats, I suppose.
love
They
it.
love Shinola and all the work that's being done downtown. So big
Mm,
Detroit fan. And then my company, Practice Solutions, serves private practices in huge ways. So
mm,
we do billing for mental and behavioral health practices because that industry is one near and dear to my heart and my wife's heart and our team's heart. Nobody's building for the private independent practice at
yeah.
that level. So that's a passion of ours. But then we do a lot of billing education through our learning platform, the Hourglass. And then we have a high touch service for larger organizations that need
Mm,
perhaps more complex billing help, I suppose. So that's our
yeah.
like white glove type service. But the one that we really enjoy is our done for you billing service for mental behavioral health practices.
So you work with practices of all sizes, right?
We
From
do.
small, do you work with solopreneurs, single
We
person
do
offices, right? All the way up
all the
to
time.
mega practices, right?
Yeah.
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 One of our values is that we flex with the practice. So
Mm-hmm.
whether you are a solopreneur, a solo provider who doesn't want to deal with insurance and you want to be hands off, or if you
Mm-hmm.
have 60, 70, 80 clinicians and you want to really dial in the billing stuff and let it fade into the background,
Yeah.
we can help anybody in that spectrum.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And I've interviewed a few folks who have these sort of giant practices with multiple sites, either across the single state or across the country. I think there are more of those happening. That's its own world all by itself. But by and large, so many of us are either in a one person shop or maybe 3 or 4 people sharing space somewhere. And insurance billing is like the bane of our existence in this
Mm,
world, right?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is. And I got my start in community mental health when I was 14.
Oh, I was going to
Um,
ask you to tell how did you get into this? Good. I want to hear the
Yeah,
story.
no, my career path has been like abnormally linear, which I recognize and am very grateful for. But I
Mm.
answered an ad for a position at our local CMH making paper charts. Remember paper charts, like with the
Yes.
big like 2-hole punch thing? I
Yes.
was the kid in the back who needed gas money making those. And so it was a great learning experience. And I had never heard of CMH, but had the opportunity to see what an interdisciplinary clinic looked, felt, smelled like, common issues. And of course, that particular center relied heavily on government funding. And so that became part of my world in high school,
Mm-hmm.
paying attention to those conversations and then did
So you
billing.
were a teenager in the back office putting charts together? That's what you were
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah,
I'm
that's what I was
astonished that
doing.
they let you do that. That's
I'm
wild.
I'm astonished they said yes, but they said yes. And then,
Huh.
ran the front office for a little bit and then worked. When I turned 18, the director said, "Do you want to work at our group home as a relief staff?" And so that was really exciting
Mm.
because I wanted to pursue a career in counseling. And so I thought, I don't
Mm.
know any 18-year-old who gets direct client experience.
For
And
real.
so I thought, hey, this population seems like a pretty good one to cut my teeth on. And so got to see what a lockdown psych hospital was like. And they let me go on all of those
Wow.
experiences with the staff, and it was a really unique, and I'm very grateful for that experience because I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of teenagers really get to see how that works.
No,
It's
that could have been really shocking actually in some ways.
in some ways it was,
Yeah.
like in high school, you're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
really valuable to see how the clinical world operates. And then
Yeah.
I did billing for a group practice in Chicago, Harris Clinical Group. They're still there. They're cranking away, and
Mm.
that was another really great experience because I got to see the CMH world. And then in college, I get to see the private practice world and thought, whoa, this is a totally
Uh,
different
yeah.
shtick,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if they're better or other, but you need them in our communities to succeed and to care for people. So it was nice to get that experience. But by the time we moved to Michigan, my wife and I, my colleagues from CMH all started private practices. And so they called me up and they said, you guys know the billing stuff. How about you do this? And so
Huh.
that's how the company was born. But it's been really exciting to watch the evolution of insurance over the last 10 years and see the challenges through COVID and Change Healthcare and all of those big national events and how gritty therapists really are. It's a gritty group of
Mm.
people. They have to be.
That's great. I love that. That's
Yeah.
new. Haven't heard anybody say that before. Yes, we are gritty.
Yeah.
Take that, y'all.
Yeah.
But that's so you kind of it sounds like you had a knack for systems already.
Mhm.
And you got exposed to these different aspects of the mental health world, the Medicaid population, community mental health, which is a really hard place in many, many ways and lots of challenges. And then you also got exposed to the private practice world, which has its own different kinds of complexities, right? And so, but the systems, your systems brain, I'm thinking, like really came into play in a way here. And so you said, so people reached out to you and now you've developed this business. That's a great, I love that.
Oh, thanks.
So one of the things I remember telling you, I think I want to start with this and then we're going to get into the stuff I want you to teach us today.
Mm,
I was telling you that the last billing service I had was a very sophisticated service here in my area who did have extensive experience in mental health billing for a large group practice. And she had gone out on her own, started a business like you, was doing mental health billing and what I think of as med surge, traditional mainstream medicine billing for hospitals and doctors' offices, and was really good at what she did. She also was a really good systems person. And I learned a lot from her that I still use today.
mm,
But she was like, after all I'd been through, y'all, I'll tell you that story another time. But after all
mhm,
I'd been through, I finally found somebody who was good. I brought her in to help our large group practice. She worked with us for about a year, just enough to kind of get our own systems kind of cleaned up and rolling. And then she made a business decision to get out of mental health billing altogether and
mhm,
just do medical. And I was like, why? Because her background had been mental health. That's where she'd started. And she said, it's too hard. It takes too much energy. There are too many games you have to play. It's
mhm,
not worth it for her financially to chase those dollars. She could do the same thing on the medical side, and it was so much more cut and dried, so much more black and white, so much more profitable for her. That was both affirming and crushing at the same
Oh,
time.
yeah, I can imagine. You feel like, "Oh, finally you find the golden goose," and then it flies
Yeah.
away.
So the reason I share that is because I'm curious about you that this is all you do. You don't do mainstream medicine. You only do mental health. And have you found that to be the case? Is it really hard or is it just you figured it out so well you got it down like you got it? Is like talk to me about that a little bit
Yeah,
because I am curious.
there's 2 realities, one that is true. mental health billing is different. It is challenging. Managed care organizations do play games with mental health providers.
Yeah.
All that is very accurate. And you could charge 3% to a med surge organization and make probably 4 times as much as you
Mm,
could with a mental health practice or in the mental health world. So I don't think her experience is untrue. I think that's pretty accurate.
yeah.
For us, we learned pretty quickly that the mental and behavioral health world is lower margin than your peers in the medical world in healthcare. So our systems have to be lean and
Mm,
effective and efficient, more efficient than everybody else's.
yeah.
Now with our high touch services where we consult with big organizations, that comes in handy
Yeah.
because we know how to take a lower margin, higher complexity industry and convert that over into the med surge world where that just gets leveled up.
Mm,
But for us, we structure the way that we do revenue cycle management, which is the technical name for what we do.
okay.
We have
Okay.
oriented ourselves in a way that our systems are more efficient. And I'm happy to share that with everybody listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. So that's great. What a perfect lead in. All right. The reason this is important to me to highlight for a moment is like, yes, it's not our imagination. We're not crazy. This really is hard. That's kind of the point I want to make here. So if you guys, if you're in practice and you are taking insurance in your business, which is perfectly fine, that's what I mean. Whatever your ideal practice is whatever your ideal practice is. So that's all good. But if you find it overwhelming and complicated and you get buried in it and you even when you do hire help, you don't even understand what they're doing, I first want to say it's not your imagination, it is really hard.
It's totally hard. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean,
that's yeah.
look at our friends in Indiana, right? Carillon takes over the management of the Anthem contract and say to all the providers, you all are taking a 50% cut in pay.
Wow.
Cindy, if your employer had done that, said, "Hey, I'm
Wow.
gonna cut your salary in half," you would walk out the door.
Yeah, I had
You would leave immediately because
mm,
that is unacceptable behavior. So our clients in Indiana who have called us up and said, "What do we do?" I've told them just that. Walk out the door.
yeah,
It's not worth staying.
yeah.
You actually can't play that game. Like they're actually inviting you to leave the table.
Yeah.
And in some ways you should, because mental health clients are 4 times more likely to follow their therapists right out of network because
Wow.
therapists bring an intangible to the table that insurance companies have a really hard time quantifying, and that's the therapeutic relationship. So if you can't you can go to a doctor and get the same diabetes test. You can't go to every therapist and get the same kind of relationship building experience dynamic.
That's true.
So
That's true.
leave. Leave the network.
Move.
Now
Yeah.
that doesn't benefit me at all, but it is the right decision.
Mm,
So you leave. Carolyn knows that like a certain percentage of them will leave. I don't think they're expecting as many therapists to leave as what I think is going to leave, but I would just walk out the door.
that's awful. It's insulting. I have not heard of that because I'm not in the insurance world. So I had not heard about that. That's insulting and
Oh,
infuriating.
it's gut
Absolutely.
wrenching. Yeah.
Ah, wow.
And I know it's like a big leap of faith. I think you did this, Wendy, right?
I
Where you just
did.
said, I'm out,
Yeah.
right? But your
Yeah.
practice continued, right?
Oh, I didn't really lose anybody. I had one client who wrapped up. So
Oh, there you
yeah,
go.
I had, and it was a Blue Cross contract, completely different one, but I
Yeah.
got a thing in the mail, back in the mail. It was in the mail and they were cutting my pay, very small amount, tiny amount, but it was the
Mm.
principle of the thing. And I was like, enough is enough. I'm done. Tore it in half and made a change that day.
Yeah, there you go. So, and
So,
like,
yeah,
yeah, there's the courage to leave, right? When the shenanigans get too big, and they will sometimes, walk out the door and you can play I don't like this language so much, but you can play the war of attrition game for
mm,
sure. The market can handle it.
I had not heard that statistic that a counseling client is 4 times more likely to follow you wherever you go. That's a great number, y'all. Listen to
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's impressive. I mean, and it's because if you're a you've developed a good therapeutic rapport with your therapist, you're not going to go find another one.
Yep. You will find a way.
Yeah, you'll
Absolutely.
find a way, and you'd
Yeah.
rather pay I don't know what your session rate is, right? But let's say
Mhm.
it's between 80 and 150.
Mhm.
Your client will pay it for sure.
Yeah.
And then you don't deal with the administrative shenanigans. And so for group practices, the bigger you get, the more expensive it becomes to retain and manage administrative systems. But if you're paying $14,000 per clinician, right, at a certain size, that becomes about what you're going to pay, then you don't pay that anymore. And so even if your hourly rate is the same and you convert that client to a cash client, but you don't deal with the administrative stuff,
Yeah.
you're actually you've just benefited your bottom line.
Yeah. So we're starting this conversation about insurance billing by talking about the benefits of going to a cash pay practice.
Sure. Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny?
That
Yeah.
is funny. But I also know that there's still a place in the world for insurance and there's still a need for it. And many of you, this is a big part of your practice. So, Jeremy, tell me, you said revenue cycle management is really about what you do, which is not a concept that's new to me. So, teach me, what is revenue cycle management?
Yeah. So revenue cycle management is simply the path of money to like the path of a claim to get you money in your practice. And it's a cycle. So that term revenue cycle management, insurance billing is complex, but it doesn't require a very big IQ to win at this game. And we call it a game
Yeah.
because not because we think or want to cheapen your livelihood. That's not the point. The point is that if you have the right mental orientation, the right roadmap or strategy, you can win this game pretty well. So I know we talked about opening the insurance episode on the benefits of a cash pay practice, which is actually pretty funny. But the point of leveraging insurance as a partner in your practice is that you have to manage this with a strategy, and you have to have goals and metrics. And it's a business decision. It's
Yeah.
not, it's a very big decision. And so you want to pick these partners very well. And so revenue cycle management always begins with credentialing. So that's the first stage of revenue cycle management. And we want our clients and we want practice owners to take a step back. And I want them to think about, why are you taking insurance? Like, why are you going to take this big, complicated step forward? Is it money? Is it clinical population? Is it a mixture of both? Are you in an area that can't afford private pay sessions?
Yeah, and sometimes it's a values judgment. I've had people who've said, "I feel like I owe it to the public to at least take some insurance." It just feels like the right thing to do. So all of those different scenarios are very, very real. Yeah.
Yeah, they're real, and you need to balance them with each other. So I hope long are the days, long gone are the days where we see private practice owners get a network with everybody because they think that's the way to grow a practice. It's not, and it's not a good strategy. And so, if that's you, I would urge you to consider not doing that and selecting one or two really solid insurance partners that you can manage. So credentialing is important. Then you get into patient registration. So how you open the concert, right? Who's your opener? How good is that experience for your patient? You have to collect a bunch of information up front. And if you get it wrong up front, you delay payment on the back end. So
That's a good point. Yep.
patient registration is really, really important. And then that's stage 2. Stage 3 is eligibility and benefit checks. So call the insurance company, get on a portal, ask the exact right questions in the exact right way to get the information you need, all knowing that those are quotes of benefits and not guarantees of payment. So even if you check and you do all of your due diligence, there's still a chance that you're quoted wrong.
Yeah.
So that happens.
Yeah.
But most of the time, if you do patient registration and eligibility benefit checks, you're on your way. And then we do something a little different. Most revenue cycle management cycles will go from eligibility and benefit checks to claim submission. We don't recommend that. We recommend jumping to payment posting. And here's why. When you make that 6 millimeter shift you move claim submission from the beginning of the revenue cycle to the end of the revenue cycle, you catch things like denials and rejections, and you catch claim issues first. And then you deal with them, and then you send clean claims last.
Huh.
And I know there's some urgency there because if you don't submit a claim, you don't get paid.
Right.
But if you submit a dirty claim, you don't get paid. And so
Right.
you don't want to do all this work. and then submit a claim that's not going to get paid. You want to submit a clean claim first and always.
This is good, y'all. This is really important because part of the frustration I used to have back when I took insurance was how much time I spent chasing denied claims. And I told Jeremy, I told you this, that they would pay for the first, second, and fourth session in a month, but they would not pay for the third session in a month. And I would do them all exactly the same way, same codes, same everything, and they would kick one back. And it was this constant sort of energy leak of having to go back and grab that. And I'm not wired that way, so I would tend to let those go, and they would accumulate over time. So what you're saying right here is get it right up front before and make sure you know what right is. Can you say like I got the credentialing? First of all, let's highlight this. First thing he's saying, guys, and when you get credentials, be picky about who you decide to work with. I love that you use the language of insurance as a partner. That feels slightly uncomfortable to me.
It's tough, but that's the right way to think about it.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, I used to have a colleague, one of my business partners would walk around the office going, "Insurance is my friend. Insurance is my friend. Insurance is my friend." But thinking of them as a partner, be careful and selective about who you choose as your partner. So don't just go get in network with everybody you can possibly get in with. First of all, that's what I'm hearing you say. And I love that. That's really good advice because when I am coaching people, I often spend a good part of time up front weeding out all those plans that they're on that aren't serving them and aren't doing them any good. I love that. And then you said patient registration. Y'all, this is the onboarding process. We have talked on here a fair amount about the client journey, the whole, your relationship with them from the beginning to end. Getting that set up in a certain way to make sure it supports your insurance process. That's getting that right. Eligibility and benefits is also tricky because you're right. They may tell you one thing on the phone and you get a whole nother thing when you send in that claim. Learn that one the hard way. Tell me when you say payment posting as something new that you put in there, explain that to me. I'm not sure I understand that properly.
Yeah, when insurance pays you for all the claims you submit, let's just take insurance company X. Right? You've sent 40 claims this week. Insurance company X is not going to send you 40 individual checks. They're going to send you one check for all the sessions they want to pay for out of that batch of claims.
Right.
So either you or your admin or your biller have to take the explanation of benefits or the electronic remittance advice, and they have to apply each payment in your electronic health record according to what the insurance company paid or didn't pay. And that is where you catch a lot of denials up front, right? When you catch a denial that says perhaps an NPI is not credentialed, you just pause there. You just say, okay, we get a call because this clinician is in network, and we know they're in network because the same insurance company paid for another patient on this EOB. So I'm just
with the same NPI.
The same NPI. Right. So we're just going to take a moment. We're not going to resubmit that claim. For sure, we're not going to do that because in 2 weeks, we're going to get a duplicate service denial, which is the most common denial in our country, by the way. And it's because of this problem, because you don't deal with issues first, right?
Okay.
That's somebody who's just resubmitting claims, and you can't really correct a duplicate service denial. You have to go to the original denial. So the faster you catch those, the faster you resolve payment, right?
Got it.
So you want to do payment posting first so you catch all the denials, and then you can resolve them, and then you can submit new claims. But if you're just going from eligibility to claim submission to payment posting to resolving old claims, you're going to submit there's a tendency that you can have to submit old and dirty claims every week. And then the practice owner goes, why am I spending, and this is the current research, $25 to $35 for my biller to rework denials that we could have caught the first time?
Got it. So you're saying clean up the mess as you go. Don't let it pile up on you. That's
totally.
What you're saying. Catch it.
Wait to submit claims until you get all those denials figured out first. And and this is what ends up happening. You're aging, the overall, when I say aging, what I mean is the amount of claims that you have submitted and not been paid for decreases. Your cash flow becomes healthier, and you can leverage the insurance relationship for revenue growth.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that if you're submitting claims that never get paid.
And what you're saying is that the tendency, the more common way that people do this is they submit those 40 claims. Let's say they get 6 of them that get kicked back. They just the next week submit those same 6 again. And the next week is with the new batch, et cetera. And they just kind of keep resubmitting them, thinking that maybe it'll go through this time without stopping to figure out what the problem is. Right? Is that what
Totally.
you're saying? Okay.
That's exactly
Got it.
right. And if you
Okay.
switch claim submission and payment posting, like do claim submission last, like on Friday morning, right? And this is, I think, an area of expertise that you bring to the table, Wendy. But if you're submitting claims because you're panicked about finances,
Mm,
that is an suboptimal position to be in to submit claims. You want to submit claims when you know that what you're submitting is going to result in payment
yeah.
as much as you can,
Yeah.
right? Which what is within your control before you submit a claim is a lot. And
Yeah.
so the cleaner all that is, the cleaner your revenue cycle will be.
Okay. So don't ever submit a new batch of claims until you have entered everything that's already come through
That's right.
and dealt with it. Okay. Got it.
That's right.
Okay.
Mhm. And
So, yeah,
there's a lot
go
of
ahead.
depth to all of those stages of the revenue cycle, but from a high level perspective, that's how the skeleton of your billing department should function.
So you said credentialing was step 1,
Mhm.
patient registration step 2, eligibility and benefits step 3, payment posting, sort of
There's 4.
catch and cleanup is
That's
where
right.
step 4, and then step 5, claim submission.
That's
The
right.
next batch, the next batch.
The next
Okay.
batch. Yeah, do that last. That way you catch all the issues, and then you can add on to that structure any number of KPIs that you want. You can
Mhm.
add process improvements there. You can add people into that process. But thinking through how billing works in that way, instead of, all right, I'm credentialed, we're going to just throw all of my credentialing information in that drawer and then we're going to try to like hustle through billing. That's a recipe for getting into a lot of administrative mess that somebody will
Mm,
have to clean up later, whether that's
mhm.
you, the practice owner, which you're going to burn a Saturday on that. You're going to burn a couple Saturdays on that, actually. Or you get it
Been
right the
there.
first time. Yeah.
Yeah, been
That's
there.
right. And it's no
Okay,
fun. It's
I'm having, like, a trauma
oh
reaction in my
no.
head. Like, I just had this flashback to a Saturday, several, sitting at my kitchen table with a client's account and trying to manually go through, like, I don't know, a year's worth of work
Yeah.
and figure out what had been paid and what hadn't been paid and where it got messed up because this client wanted to pay me, but I could not give them a clean account of what they actually
Oh,
owed because it was
yeah.
that happened several times, y'all, several times. I had people who were like, "I'm happy to pay you," and I'd be like, "I'm not really clear about what you owe. Let me get back to
Oh,
you." And then I would go into, like, this panic mode, and sometimes I figured it out, sometimes I didn't. I
yeah.
lost a lot of money that way.
You leave a lot of money on the table doing that.
Yeah.
And it is unfortunate. It happens to everybody where you go to a hospital or a clinic or a therapy appointment and you get a bill 7 months later because the revenue cycle of the practice or organization is a mess.
Yeah.
And you should be able to tell your client, "Hey, this is what I think you owe right now.
Yep.
The claims are going to process," which is not a therapist client issue. That's a therapist insurance client issue,
Mhm.
right? Rope in the insurance company as part of the partnership there. But like the claim is going to process and pay, and then we're going to tell you what you owe.
Mhm.
But that happens at payment posting, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to know what your patient owes and you want to send clean claims quicker,
Yeah.
you have to move patient payment posting up in the revenue cycle
Yeah.
and get it right the first time.
Yeah, that's great. So is that the complete cycle? Is the claim submission the end of that cycle, or is there
That's
another
it.
s Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Now,
great.
some of you listening may need to layer in prior authorization, right? If you're doing any sort of service, like psych testing is oftentimes one that requires prior authorization depending on the state that you're in or the insurance company that you're working with. So you would need to layer that after eligibility and benefits because you're going to call and say, "Hey, these are the codes we are going to bill. Do we need prior authorization?" Yes. Fill out the process. And that process has its own can of issues, right? For
Mm.
example, that's where you get companies like Evicor. And I'm happy to mention Evicor because I think their policies need to change where
Is that
they'll
I don't know this company. Is that EVA? CO? Okay.
EVICORE.
Okay.
there have been multiple news articles written about this. This is all public information. I'm not disclosing anything that you can't look up.
Okay.
Um, but that company, their value proposition is we can take 100 prior authorizations for any service and we'll deny a certain percentage of them, knowing that nobody's going to appeal them.
Yes.
And we can direct provider behavior.
Yes.
That's not great behavior, first of
Mhm.
all. Second,
Mhm.
the prior authorization process has gotten a lot of attention, especially after most insurance companies this year have made a broad public commitment to try to improve it. And that's where you get a lot of shenanigans, right? So, prior authorizations, if you're a practice that deals with that particular process, you're going to
Mhm.
have your own set of checks and balances within your organization.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's also a good way to evaluate whether an insurance company you're credentialed with is worth working for or
Oh,
with,
there you go.
right? Because if you get 30% of those denied, and I would say the same thing for claims, by the way.
Mm.
If you're submitting clean claims and 30% of them get denied for no discernible reason, take off. That's
Wow.
too many claims to
That's a
get
high
denied.
number. Is that common? That seems like a high number even to me.
It's
Like that.
not uncommon.
Okay. Okay.
Good insurance companies don't have that problem, but there are
Yeah.
some, even here in Michigan, that deny 34%. And every time a provider says, "What do you think?" We go, "Run for the hills,"
Right.
because there's
Leave
no
them. Yeah.
way
Yeah.
you are gonna want to chase one out of every three claims.
I used to say that every insurance company I thought had a little old man in a back room who was sitting at the head of a board of a long table, conference room table, saying, "I know we have to pay these people, but hold on as long as you can, because every single day that money stays in our account is more money that we make."
Yeah.
And it was just like this big delay tactic. It is a game. It is totally a game.
It's a
And
game.
it is a game. So that's a nice little tip there, y'all. If you're getting 30%, like, wow, of
It's
your
too many.
claims. Yeah.
It's too many, and you're gonna chase one out of every three claims? I don't think so. Even if that is your highest reimbursing payer, what you're paying in rework of claims makes that relationship not worth it, right?
Meaning if your rate is 150 and they're paying you 130 and everybody else is paying you 90, like you're making good money from them, but you're wasting money chasing the lack of the unpaid claim. So don't do that. You're
That's right,
just losing money. Yeah.
because you have to pay somebody to sit on the phone with them
Yeah.
to work that
Yeah.
out, and that's, like, real dollars, right?
I think my threshold would be lower. I think it'd be like 10%. If it was 10%, I think
Totally.
I would quit. That's
Yeah.
a really good point. So what are some other things to look for in terms of a good insurance partner versus a not so good insurance partner?
Yeah, I would say clear communication. Credentialing will tell you a lot, and credentialing gets a bad rap for a lot of reasons. But insurance companies, and this is where, as a clinician, you should put on your clinician hat and think about this from their perspective. They're not going to hand money over to just anybody. So, credentialing is the process of verifying, vetting that you are who you say you are. Now, you know that you're qualified. You went to grad school, you have the hours, you did all the work, but they don't know that yet. And so you have to deal with that. And that's okay. That's just bureaucracy. We all have to deal with bureaucracy in some respect. Wendy, I think you're more familiar with bureaucracy than most. So you have to navigate it. And there's a way to keep your head through all of that.
Yep.
But if you get bad communication, if they wanna shield a fee schedule from you, if they don't
Oh,
wanna negotiate your contract, if they don't wanna give you favorable terms, I would say credentialing, you're gonna burn a lot of calories, but it's also gonna tell you quite a bit about who you're gonna do business with.
y'all, you just said several really good, important things there.
Okay.
Um, if they shield the fee schedule.
Yeah.
So before you sign up with any particular company, they should share with you a complete chart that shows what they pay every licensure level, right?
Yeah, for the
Right?
codes that you're gonna bill.
For the codes that you're going to be billing. That should be upfront information. If they don't share with you, that's a red flag.
Yeah, it's like signing an employment contract without a salary amount. It's like, "What's this job pay?"
Absolutely.
"I don't
Yeah.
know. A fair rate."
Oh,
"Okay,
shoot.
what does that mean?"
You said like 3 or 4 things. What were the other things you said?
Um, favorable terms, on the
Favorable
contract.
terms and negotiation. Yes, say something about that.
Yeah, so I talked with a good friend of mine. Her name is Kathy, and she was the provider network director for Magellan for a long time, Kathy Gilbert. She does consulting now. She's wonderful. But she said one of the terms that insurance companies negotiate that providers don't think about a lot is timely filing, which is how long do I have from session to submission?
Yes.
Do I need to have? And that's usually a fillable box, right? So if they say 60 days, you have to submit a claim within 60 days of seeing the client, ask them to change that to 180
Mm,
before a year. Might as well. The other term that I would look at now, I'm not a lawyer, I can't give legal advice, so I'm going to
right.
say that. But
Disclaimer.
the other term I would look at is what is the look back period the insurance company has where they can claw money back,
Mm.
right? If that clause says an indefinite amount of time, I don't know if I would sign that contract,
Oh,
right?
that's
You can
good.
have
Yeah.
12 to 18 months maybe, right? Because
Uh,
things happen. Coordination of benefits, patient issues show up, and we need to swap money around from one insurance company to the other. But an indefinite period of time makes no sense, right?
y'all, that's golden. Did you catch that? So read the fine print in the contract. So timely filing is something that I learned by messing it up. If you don't
No,
file a claim with a certain period of time, you don't get paid. Who knew?
yeah.
And because I was really good at avoiding all of this, that happened to me. Shocking.
Mm,
Um, but so what you're saying is go look at the contract and first of all notice what is the time period they give you, and it does not hurt to ask for more. So ask for more. And then the second thing, which so that's forward thinking, how much time do I have to file? And then backward thinking, this whole clawback thing that they could come back and ask for money back. That didn't I think I had that happen maybe twice in 20 years.
mhm.
Like that wasn't a big deal for me, but it's infuriating when it does happen. And probably the reason it didn't happen for me was because I just lost money and just didn't go after things.
Mhm. Mhm, yeah.
But you have a client who changes jobs. You have a client who gets married and gets onto their spouse's insurance instead of their own. You have a client who moves across country and their insurance provider doesn't go there. Whatever things happen in people's lives. That's often where I got in trouble was when their insurance would change, or they've got a primary and a secondary, and they think they know which is which, but they've got it backwards or something like that. So
100%.
so
Yeah, you
there's
got this
lots of things.
exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of things can go wrong, and the insurance may sometimes come back and say, "Whoops, we paid you an error,
Mhm.
and we need you to pay that back," which is going to really upset me no matter what. But what you're saying is read the fine print in the contract and make sure there's a time limit on how you have a limit on when you have to file claims. They have a limit on when they can come back after you.
Yeah, I
So
think that's totally
it's
reasonable.
great. It's
Like,
really
that's
great advice.
completely reasonable. Clawbacks are becoming more common. Well, they're certainly more common since the cyber attack on Change Healthcare,
Mm,
especially since quite a few practices took the loans that United Healthcare offered. And that is
mm.
another item that I would recommend trying to avoid at all costs, right? No judgment if that is your only option. I would try to avoid it as much as you can because they'll just withhold payment.
Avoid loans from the. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
showing my I don't even know about this.
Yeah. So
I've had a cash
this
pay practice for 10 years. What is this practice?
Well,
What is
that's
this?
good. You've avoided a lot of shenanigans. So in
Yeah.
February of 2024, Change Healthcare, which is a clearinghouse, and a clearinghouse is a company that when you send a claim in, they reformat the claim into a machine readable file so that an algorithm can determine whether or not it gets processed. There are not a ton of people at insurance companies looking over claims to
Yeah.
determine payment. It's all machine learning algorithm based and has been
Yeah.
for a very long time. This is not news,
Right.
not like AI stuff.
Right.
This has been going on for quite some time. So, a Change Healthcare, which is a subsidiary of United Health Group, was attacked by a bad actor, cyber attacked by a bad actor, and 100 million patient records were captured. So,
Mm.
one out of every three Americans' patient records were captured by that cyber attack. Change Healthcare was like the major player in the clearinghouse world. They processed most of the claims in the country at the time.
Got it.
What ended up happening is United Health Group said this is going to cost us $3.5 billion to fix this whole thing. And that's a lot of money. So what we'll do is we'll loan $9.5 billion out to private practices and healthcare organizations. And a lot of practices and organizations took that deal. The
To keep
problem,
them afloat while we go in through and clean up this mess we've got,
that's
right?
right.
Essentially, okay.
So they loaned money out to practices with interest. But now what's happening in 2025 is those claim goes out to United Healthcare, Optum. Payment does not come back because they loaned you the money with interest.
Wow.
So they're going to claw back their loan amount
Mm.
by withholding payment.
They're
So you will
applying
do.
your new claims to that old loan.
That's
Wow.
right. That's
Wow.
right. So I would avoid that at all costs. Because you're going to do free services for those members. And so
Mm.
United Health Group, and you can look this up in their annual reports. Again, this is not
Yep.
secret info. This is public info. Cost them $3.5 billion. They loaned $9.5 with interest. So they did okay on the Change Healthcare situation, but a lot of practices that took the loan are struggling with that reality.
Wow.
So be very careful. Be
Yeah.
very careful when an insurance company says, "Hey, here's a loan."
Mm. Mm. I didn't even know about that. Well, that's
It was a tough situation,
yeah,
especially
sounds like it.
for companies like mine. Or companies like mine, we were okay. We said to our clients, "We're not going to invoice you for a little bit because your
Because
revenue
you
just
had
dried up overnight."
right,
And
you had been submitting these claims that you were also counting on.
that's
That
right.
right, gee
Yeah.
whiz.
So we pivoted everybody to different clearinghouses during that time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a good learning experience even for practice solutions because we
Yeah.
realized, oh, this clearinghouse thing is not as secure as we thought, right? Your revenue can dry up overnight. And so
Mm.
that's a tough lesson to learn when you take insurance. And now you have to think, how are we pivoting all of our claims to a new clearinghouse? And so
Wow.
what we ended up doing was we said to all of our clients, we're going to work a lot to get this thing done. We will pause our invoicing and then we're going to figure this out, but you have to get paid first before we get paid.
Mm.
We weathered that, obviously, and it was a great lesson, but it was tough for sure.
Yeah. That also that sort of speaks to the whole benefit of having a cushion.
Yeah.
Making sure that this is another, these are other episodes where we've talked about finances and how to manage your practice finances, but this is an example. Like that's a type of practice financial crisis that I hadn't even thought of. But the pandemic was like that, right? A lot of people
That's
took
right.
EIDL loans. I took an EIDL loan, which seemed like why not at the time, and then later wished I had not done that.
Mm,
Same idea, same idea. Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
this kind of thing happens a lot, right?
yeah.
TRICARE West is another one from this year, right? They tried to change systems. System changes are hard.
Mm.
I think TRICARE West now is paying claims, but for about 6 months, they weren't paying anything. So what do you recommend for a cushion, Wendy? What's the going recommendation?
Your 6 months worth of expenses, right?
Is that what it
Yeah,
is? Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
That's
lot.
common.
That's a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's hard to save 6 months, yeah?
yeah. It is. It is.
Ooh, yeah.
Whew.
Change Healthcare was, I mean, electronic health records moved systems. So they had to pivot. Everybody had to pivot. And it
Yeah.
was really, really challenging for everybody because a lot of clinicians thought, oh, Change Healthcare, they've got a lot of money and resource. They'll sort this out in a week. And it was months and months and months. And so,
Actually, what this makes me think of is this is a good reason to diversify your revenue streams, right? So that you are not 100% dependent upon insurance income. So if you have
that's right.
right, this goes back to your saying choose a couple of partners carefully. You can also decide that a certain percentage of your practice is insurance based, a certain percentage is self based, and you also have other things like groups, courses, online offers that you have, coaching. Like there's lots of different ways to make money, guys. There's lots of different ways to make money. If you are 100% dependent upon insurance, that's a risk level that I would not encourage. Like have other ways of making money. That's another
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
And I'll
yeah,
tell you the practices that we work with that have a cushion, have an
yeah,
emergency fund, 6 to
yeah,
12 months, they did okay. They
yeah,
did okay during all of that,
yeah.
right? They paid all their bills, they hired clinicians. It was as if there was not much of a bump, even though underneath the surface, the practice owners and us knew the hours we were all putting into to pivot the entire practice to a new clearinghouse, it wasn't felt by anybody else. Clinicians
So,
got paid,
yeah.
clients got services. In the back office, we were all drinking a lot of coffee
I was
trying to
going to say
figure this out.
CEOs were not sleeping.
No,
Right?
no, I had a 4-week-old at the time,
Oh,
and
gosh.
I remember holding my 4-week-old, and I was doing claims like all
Oh,
night because it was
honey.
like we got to figure this out.
Oh,
You know?
honey.
So we have like 40 billers, and we all worked really hard to get that done.
Mm,
And
mm,
I
mm.
think you're right. Risk management with insurance companies or electronic health record systems has to enter the paradigm now, right? It
Yeah.
has to enter our grid of how are we managing our risk?
Yeah. Always. Which, guys, that really that sort of goes into the piece that we do kind of come back to here every now and then, which is that you are the leader of your practice. You are the CEO. This is the stuff you have to think about and be prepared for. Whether you are a one-person show or you're running some kind of a group, it's up to you to figure this stuff out, and you are the one who's going to have to navigate it when the problems come. Having good partners on board to help you with it is certainly important. But this is part of the risk of owning a business. Like, it's not all, as I say, sunshine and roses.
No, it can be
Um,
challenging. And when you look for
yeah.
a biller, can we talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit?
yeah, sure, absolutely. I was just going to think, let's talk about some billing
Yeah.
practices. Yeah,
Yeah, full in a little bit. Here's one of the lessons we learned from, or lessons we constantly learn from shenanigans, right? And we learned this from the Change Healthcare situation because at the same time that was happening and we were dealing with our current book of clients, we inherited a bunch because the mom and pop shops, which when you've had plenty of dealings with, or the person who's trying to do this as a side hustle,
yeah,
a lot of those dried up
yep,
because they didn't have the time or resource. They hadn't committed to having the systems necessary to pivot all of their clients to a new thing. So when you look for a biller, and this is an issue that's near and dear to my heart because I care about the clinicians that work their fingers to the bone in this industry. When you
yeah.
look for a biller, you want billing to fade into the background, right? You need to, I think, Wendy, did you say this? You need to delegate, not abdicate.
Yes, I
Is
did.
that yours? That's great. I've quoted you on that a few times now. Um, but you want regularity in service delivery, right? You need to know that billing is going to happen even during the week of Christmas,
Yeah,
right? Because you still have to get paid.
yeah.
So regularity in service delivery, you need dependability. So you need to know that if my biller goes on vacation, who's doing my billing, right? We hire a higher proportion of females at Practice Solutions, and sometimes they have kids. Like,
Yep,
what happens during maternity leave?
yep.
Is there some redundancy in the system here? And then what's your depth of specialty, right? Do you know mental health billing? Because it's different. The modifiers are different. The payers are different. The carve outs are different. The players are different. It's all a little different. The fee
Mhm.
schedules are different. So having some bench depth is good. And then the last two are transparency. Can you see what your billing is doing? What your biller is doing? Do you see the results? Are you tracking the right things? And do you trust this person? Because they are in charge of revenue cycle management, top line revenue. They are the way that you have stability on the top line. The bottom line is yours to manage, but the top line is your
Mm,
billers to manage.
mm.
And so having somebody at the top line who's managing this thing is important.
They bring in the gross revenue, and then it's up for you to figure out what to do with it.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is it's its own challenge, which we can appreciate. But
true.
yeah.
So go through those again. These are like key points to when you are evaluating a billing service or looking at hiring a billing company. These are the things to think about. Can you say those one more
Yeah.
time?
Yeah. Regularity in service delivery. So, how frequently does claim submission get done? How often is my aging getting touched? What's your process? Do you have a process? Because if you don't have a process, I don't know if that makes sense. You know,
Mhm.
dependability. Are they going to be there when people go on vacation? Are they going to
Mhm.
be there when people go on maternity leave? Or there's turnover. One of the benefits of an outsourced biller is that there's no turnover, right? There might be turnover with who's managing your billing, but there should be somebody right behind them to
Right.
do your billing, right?
Right.
So you have to get used to a new relationship there. But you don't have to hire, you don't have to train, you don't have to do all the HR stuff. It's just that's our burden to manage,
Yeah.
right? Depth and specialty. Do they know mental health? Do they know psych testing? Do they know your payers? Do they know your modifiers? Transparency in service delivery. Can you see the results that they are achieving? And do you trust them?
Okay, that's a great list.
There's
Can
5 things. It's too many.
well, not really.
Okay. Okay.
I actually want to add one.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
um, Communication,
Oh, for sure.
which might be part of their process, I guess, or part of the transparency. But what
Mm-hmm.
would you recommend so in terms of best practices?
Mm,
If I Because y'all, I'm gonna suggest that you seriously, if you are managing insurance or accepting insurance in your practice, unless you're really good with this kind of stuff and you're more on the left brain side of things, like let somebody else do this.
mm,
Let somebody else do it because most of us, this is not what we're good at. So I know there are exceptions. Some of you guys are even nerdier than I am in this way. I am not. My brain just does not work this way. But if you're the exception and you love a spreadsheet, by golly, go ahead and handle it. But
that's
if
right.
you're not, I encourage you to seriously consider hiring a billing service that can help you. But what Jeremy is giving you are some things to look at as you evaluate people, and y'all do your homework. Talk to several, at least 3, 4, 5 of them
Mhm.
before you make a decision. Um, and I would recommend trying somebody like for a 90-day period or giving them 10 claims or something like do some kind of a test and see how it works once you actually get started. I would test it in some way. But I want to talk about communication because the problem that I ran into, so the reason Jeremy's talking about this, when he and I met before, I said that one of the mistakes that I have seen my coaching clients make, and that I back in the day made, is we hate this stuff. We don't want to talk about money. We don't want to think about money. We don't want to look about money. We have this like crazy story in our head that we can't understand it, which is a bunch of BS, but
Mhm.
still. So we hand it over to somebody and we're like, boom, that's done. Okay, I'm going to go back and see my clients. That is a recipe for disaster. That's a recipe for losing money. You can delegate this to a service. You cannot abdicate your responsibility for staying on top of it and knowing what's happening. So, thinking about partnerships, to me, it's really important that whatever billing service you have, that the two of you are in regular communication
Mhm.
in some way. Can you tell everybody what do they have the right to expect from a biller in terms of communication and reports? What's the low end? What's the high end of that
Mm.
level of service?
Oh, I don't really have a low end. I
Okay.
have what we do, which
Okay.
is eligibility and benefits need to get turned around in 1 to 2 business days, definitely
Okay.
before the appointment. But one
Okay.
like, if a practice sends my team an eligibility and benefit check, we gotta turn that around quick because
Because
they
they're
need.
bringing somebody in for an intake and they need to know. Yep.
That's right, and they need to there's a whole slew of stuff you gotta get done when you get a new client, including
Mm.
provider assignment and scheduling. And one of the limiting factors there can be, can we take this client with our insurance?
Yeah.
Or with their insurance.
Yeah.
So, you gotta turn that around quick. The second is, when they do your billing, are they sending you a report about which claims are the troublemakers and what is going on with them? So, our clients always get what's called a billing day email, which includes number of claims we submitted, how many notes aren't done, so that you know as the practice owner who needs a little bit more accountability. Because if you don't get your notes done, most EHRs don't let you submit claims. And so
Yeah.
so we always assign a dollar figure to the number of claims that don't have notes so that
Love
the
that.
practice owner knows how much money's on the table as of
Great.
today.
I
And
love
so
that.
you gotta push. There can be an element of, I know that can feel uncomfortable. And when we bring in new billers, they're always like, I can say that. And we say, of course.
Yeah,
Of
you
course. The
should.
practice owner wants to know that
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So they can say to the therapist in office B, hey, sit down and do your notes
Yeah.
like today.
Yeah.
So you got to know that. You got to know which claims are the problem claims, why, and when we expect it to be done. So there has to be a due date. Everybody hates due dates. Due dates are great. They make things move.
Yes, I do.
So you have
Structure.
to, yeah, structure. And then
Mhm.
2 reports that are standard that are high-level barometers for the health of your practice is the insurance aging report. So that is how old are my claims by insurance company and how old is my patient aging? So patient aging and insurance aging are the two reports you should look at least twice a month.
Explain what that means. What is patient aging and what is claim? I don't want to
Yeah,
assume people know.
they're both similar reports, but
He doesn't mean how old your client is, y'all.
no, no, it does not. Your client's age is totally their business. Um, it does tell you how old their claims are, though. So let's say you take insurance X, and insurance X has money that is owed to the practice for the past 6 months. How much money per month is there? So an aging report is usually split into 30, 60, 90, 120, and 120 days plus
Mm-hmm.
buckets.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the amount in each of those buckets is a good indicator of how things are functioning.
Okay.
Industry standard says if you are a healthcare organization with 20 to 25% of your total claim amount in the 120-day bucket, you're considered like healthy.
Really?
I think that's
Really?
ridiculous.
I was going to say, wow. So a fifth to a quarter of your income, you've been waiting 4
4
months or
months.
longer to get paid?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way to say that. And
Yeah.
the number that I think should be in that bucket, rounded to a whole number, is 0. I
Yeah.
don't think any money should be in that bucket. I don't really think any money should be in the 90-day bucket, but there can be good reasons for my claims to be in the 90-day bucket. They don't
Yeah.
know their insurance. The primary and secondary got switched. Now we got to start this whole thing over. It happens.
Hmm.
I have a little bit more grace there. A healthy mental health practice should mostly be in 0 to 60.
Yeah.
All of your money should be tied up in 0 to
Yeah.
60.
Yeah.
After that, I think goose eggs across the board if it's
So
being managed really well.
when you say patient aging, is that what the clients actually owe you, like their
Yeah.
copays or something like that? Okay,
Yep.
so
Same thing.
it's how
Yeah.
long you've been waiting for this money to come in, guys. That's what he's talking about here.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
there's a
That's
limit
right.
to how long it should be. That's
I
it.
think
So,
so. Yeah, we've seen
okay.
practices with millions of dollars in,
Mm,
120-day plus
money
aging.
on
And
the
that
table.
becomes real. There are hard conversations to be had when that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we're going to write off half of this.
That's a systems issue and a leadership issue, I think, in those
Yeah.
practices.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody lost touch or the whole thing got out of control. And
Uh,
you don't want to be in that position. And if you are in that position, we feel for you, but there will be some hard financial discussions to be had to clean that up
mhm, mhm.
and hard process discussions, honestly.
But otherwise, you're working for free. Like, there's
That's
no point in
right.
running a business if you're not getting paid, guys. That's the whole
That,
point here.
that's correct.
Let's remember that. That's very funny.
Yeah.
I think I told you this before, Jeremy, that I had, after I gave up on hiring outside, I actually hired somebody to come work in my office physically,
Mhm.
like literally in the room next door to me to handle me insurance. And so I could watch what she was doing, like literally, and we could talk through things. And she walked into my office pretty early on. We were first starting everything, and she had a folder in her hand that had about 2 inches thick of old
Oh
claim
no.
forms, right? And she said, "Okay, I've been going through all these claims." And she said, "You've got you've got a couple $1,000s worth out here of unpaid claims. Do you know that? Like, you've got at least $2,000 here." I'm like, "Yes, I know that. Why do you think I'm hiring
Yeah.
you?
Yeah, go get it.
Help
Yeah,
me, please.
that's right. That's
Help me,
right.
please." Because I was terrible at this stuff. So
It
terrible at
gets
it.
even worse than that, though.
Yeah,
I
I was
think.
thinking that felt
That's
terrible to me, but what you're saying is like that was nothing compared to
well,
what you see.
that's pretty good, even for 12, 14 clinicians.
Yeah.
I think, or did you have 20?
No,
You were
that was just me. That was me
Oh, that was
personally.
just you. Okay, so yeah, that's a lot for
Yeah.
one clinician for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
We've had projects with large practices where we find that payers are underpaying a buck,
Yeah.
75 cents per claim from the fee schedule. And
Mm.
those are fun conversations because then there are certain pressure points that you can apply to an insurance company and get all those claims reprocessed.
Wow. Well, they're not paying what they were contracted to pay? They're
That's
cutting
right.
you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wow.
So
And
that's why the
y'all,
fee schedule is really important. You gotta have
yeah.
your fee schedule. You have to know those numbers as if they are your child's birthday, uh, because sometimes it happens that they underpay.
And you have to be a detail person who's really really looking at this stuff.
That's right.
Right? You
That's
have to be
right.
a detail person, and I'm so on the Colbys, I'm a 4 fact finder, which if you're
Mm,
that's a work styles inventory that I love, which
mhm,
means I'm the kind of person that I just need to know the bottom line. Tell me what I need to know, otherwise I don't really care.
mhm.
Um, I'm getting dinged from I've got all my focus things turned on. I'm getting dinged. If y'all
Yeah,
hear dinging, ignore it. I'm so
I can't
sorry.
hear it, so you're
Okay,
good.
good, because that's annoying to me. But anyway, um, having somebody who attends to detail at this level is really, really, really important. And Jeremy, going back to what you just said about these reports and all these your billing day email that you just described,
Mhm.
there's a lot of information that you just laid out. Do you do that weekly, monthly? How often do you send those out?
It depends on the size of the practice and the needs of the practice. So,
Okay.
some practice owners don't want it done very quickly or very at a high frequency. And then big groups, obviously, we have to touch it every day.
Every
And
day.
you can't not. So,
What do you have a recommendation for how often you think somebody needs to have this kind of information? Let's say you're either 1 to 4 therapists.
oh yeah, I think if you're in the 1 to 4 therapist world and you have a pretty clean gig, I think at least once every 2 weeks. Once every
Okay.
2 weeks is not a bad move, particularly because sometimes denials will take more than a month to process. So
Mm,
there's no point in calling every day to get
mm,
those sorted
mm,
out. You're just going to get the same answer.
mhm.
So if you're in the 1 to 4 practice world, at least twice a month, but
Okay.
you're going to grow, especially if you're good at outsourcing or you're good at delegating
Yeah.
and the person or the company you delegate to knows what they're doing because you're going to convert that time into practice growth activity. And then generally what we see is pre-outsourcing, a practice will grow organically at 11, 12%. But the moment a practice owner starts to delegate activities really well, it's more like 20, 25% a year of
Wow,
growth.
that delegate really well,
Yeah,
right?
that's a key distinguisher.
Yeah. I keep coming back to this because I am the person who delegates. I hire and I'm a big systems person and I have done all this kind of stuff in all of my practice and sometimes it has really really paid off. Sometimes it has cost me a fortune because I didn't do
Uh-oh.
it well. Right? Because I
Ah.
either hired the wrong person or because I wasn't paying attention, which is why I'm sort of hammering this point.
Mhm.
I think for too many healing arts practitioners, those of us who are in this kind of work, our default is to avoid this stuff. It is the thing. There's a reason why I hammer this a lot on this program because it is the thing I see that so many people struggle with. We struggle with marketing. We struggle with asking to get paid. We have all kinds of hangups, but the big one is dealing with getting the money in the door the reason we're in business to begin with. Yes, I want to help people. I also want to feed my kids. I also want to take a vacation every now and
Yeah,
then.
you
Right?
have to. Yeah.
I was going to say weekly. That I thought at least once a week you should look at your details. Even if you don't do anything about it, just make it like a weekly practice as part of your kind of your overview for the week that you sit down and review your numbers in some way.
For sure.
Right? You
Yeah.
may not be calling on those claims. You may not be taking action yet, but at least I'm thinking once a week. But if you can't stand it, sure, okay, every other week. But
Yeah, or with us, schedule a meeting with your biller. Schedule a
schedule
meeting with
'em.
your
Yeah,
biller to as your own accountability to say, "Okay, Jeremy, what's going on? What's going on with these claims?
right,
Where am I struggling?
right,
Where am I not struggling? How's the aging look?" So
right.
you can use that's one of the factors of why we like the work we do
Mm.
because we can help grease the wheels on practice growth by adding a layer of accountability that's helpful, right? We're on your
Yes,
side.
yes.
We're not some kind of bad actor. So
There's no judgment here.
there's no judgment, right? We have
Right,
40 claims that don't have notes. Every day that those sit, we don't get paid.
right.
How can we help,
It's
right? Or
costing you. Yeah.
your aging is a little rough. Here's why you have this credentialing issue. Here's some things that we can do to tweak this a little bit to get it better. Or
Because sometimes the remedy is on the insurance, like calling the insurance company. Sometimes it's a paperwork issue, but sometimes it's on us.
Sometimes.
It's
Yeah,
on us because we haven't done like our notes, or there's a conversation we need to have with a client,
that's right. That's
right?
right.
Which is
Mhm.
the thing we're going to avoid. I had a therapist in my practice one time who was young and new to this work and just trying to kind of figure everything out. And she was working with the geriatric population
Mm.
and their families. So
Mhm.
she had a lot of Medicare billing, which was its own kind of mess. And she got to, I mean, she's way beyond this now. She's fine now. She's rocking it now. But back in the very beginning, she told me one day that she didn't want to know when her clients owed money because she would find herself resenting it.
Oh, no.
Right? So she's in session
Oh.
with somebody and she knows that Medicare hadn't paid the last 3 months worth, even if it wasn't their fault. I mean, sometimes it was, but often it wasn't their fault. It was just, the world that we're working in. But she was like, I don't really want to know what they owe because I'm afraid it will impact my work with them. And you know what? It will. And my response to that is, which is why you need to know what's going on because it's going to impact you one way or the other. And you owe it to your client to have these conversations with them because I guarantee you they're thinking about it. They're thinking about it. You're thinking about it. Neither one of you are talking about it. That is a therapeutic issue,
Oh, there you go.
right?
There you go.
Well, it is. I feel really
Yeah.
strongly about it. This is a therapeutic issue. You've got to address it. And as a responsible business owner, first of all, like there's that. You owe it to yourself, but you
Mhm.
also owe it to your clients to be clear eyed about this and to be able to guide that conversation in a comfortable, professional, kind, but clear way. And what I'm thinking you're telling me is that if you have a good billing service like professional solutions,
Practice
practice
solutions.
solutions,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you have like this, that you have people who can help you figure that out. All right, here's what you need from your client.
Mhm.
Here's some suggestions for how you could approach it with them. Let's do this. And why don't you next week, let's have another call and you tell me you've done this. Like that's where the accountability is going to help.
Yeah. And one of my favorite add-on services we have is our patient support services.
Mm,
Our team, we received one complaint in 5 years
mm,
because my team is one, talented.
yeah,
Two, they've all worked in clinical settings. They know how to talk to people. But if you need your biller to have those conversations for you,
yeah,
they should be able to. They should be able to say to your clients, let's get on the phone, let's look at your chart, let's look at your ledger and walk through it. What's
yep,
payment plan look like? How are we taking payment today? Right? If they don't want to make payment, that's a completely different discussion. Most
right.
patients want to pay their bills. We've
Yes,
very, very, very rarely do we come across a client who just says, I want to keep seeing my therapist or my clinician and I don't want to pay them.
yes.
That rarely ever happens. I think that's sometimes the fear of some healing arts professionals that
Mm-hmm,
their client doesn't want to pay them. That's
mm-hmm.
not we've not found that to be the case.
No, not only that, they do want to pay. They feel
Yeah.
bad when they can't pay, and it is a drain on your relationship that you're not even as aware there. And what I have found is that when I can get somebody to go ahead and gather up the courage, figure out the language, get your mindset ready, go in and have this conversation with your client, often that becomes a turning point in the relationship. And it
Ooh.
gets better because what ends up happening is you work out even if they're having trouble paying, there's lots of ways to make it work. Like you can work on it, right? And once that happens, now your client is now back into being an equal partner in the work, and there is self-respect, there's mutual respect, and the flow is better. Like I coached somebody once. This is back when I was first starting in the coaching world. I was coaching a practice owner who had taken, this is a great story, had
Mm.
taken a second job to make ends meet, even though she had a thriving practice because she had plenty of clients, but she wasn't getting paid because she was handling that so badly. She had so much guilt around asking people to pay. And she was working with a
Mhm.
lot of folks who were dealing with addictions. And she had a client who owed her something like $1,500 or something like that in back sessions. Remember, this woman had taken a second job to pay her bills because she wasn't bringing in enough from her practice. So I worked with her. This was in the very beginning when I was just doing short-term work with people. And I think we did like 6 weeks worth of calls. Like it was really limited. I was still
Oh, it's
figuring stuff out,
brief.
right? Very brief. Yeah, I didn't do that for very long, but that was in the very
Well,
beginning. By the time we got done, in that very brief engagement. She had the conversation she needed to have with that client. They came up with a payment option. The client began to pay and then magically figured out somehow to go ahead and pay it off sooner than expected.
Whoa, imagine
Got
that.
ahead of it, paid it off, stayed in therapy with her, and began to own it more, began to really do the work more, and the quality of the work improved. My client, the practice owner, by the end of that year, I just know because she told me later, she was able to quit that second job and she ended up buying a building for her practice.
That's great.
Yeah, it was just fantastic. It was I was just so proud of her. But it all came from overcoming her own reluctance to have the hard conversation about payment with a client.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah,
Yeah.
what a great story. That is a great story. And
Yeah.
that can happen for anybody listening to this that's struggling with that.
Yeah.
That is the same. If that happened with that clinician, that can happen with you
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah. Wow. I think we should wrap this up or we'll be here till this
Oh, we'll be
evening.
here for a very long time talking about insurance. Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Jeremy. You have given us lots of really good practical guidance about how to think about this, some of the mistakes to avoid, how to empower yourself when you have these conversations with a billing service or with an insurance company, whatever you do. You've given us so much good stuff, and I've learned a few things today that I didn't know, and I love that. How do people find you who would like to maybe explore a little bit more about what you do? How do people find you?
So the best way to keep in touch is we do a newsletter every month, which you can find on our website, practicesol.com. And there's a link there to sign up to the newsletter. I do a video newsletter and a bunch of text, but I talk about current events. We talk about resources that we're finding that are helpful. We talk about best practices. So,
Right.
and things that are coming up with the company, and we're always making improvements and releasing new features about what we're doing.
And
So that would be
trends in the industry and what's going on in the insurance world, I'm guessing, probably.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a good way to keep us sharp, and it's a good way to keep our audience and other practice owners engaged.
Yeah.
And the website has a host of resources for you there. But if you wanted to stay in touch, that's probably the best way to see
Practice SOL. So it's Practice Solutions is the name of your business.
That's right. Yeah.
Practice
Yeah.
SOL is the website. We will link that down below. You also have a podcast of your own, don't you?
We do. Yeah. So my wife and I are the hosts of the Claim Game.
The Claim Game. I love it.
The game language is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we talk about best practices and we interview folks that are changing. So game changing is the language there of the Claim Game, but we interview game changers a lot. So folks that are moving healthcare on the front edge of what's going on. And so the interviews that we have lined up and have done are really, really interesting with people like Kathy Gilbert or Dan King. And we're excited about releasing the names of the next few episodes moving forward. But those folks are reshaping how mental health, private practice is getting done. And they have some really great insights. So we like to interview those folks. They have a lot of value to add. And yeah, you can follow us there for sure.
So y'all, if you do have a decent amount of insurance in your work, you might want to follow his podcast because you're going to learn things there like you have today, which I think could be super helpful.
Great. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. This just been really practical and really helpful. And I appreciate it very much. It's the first time I've gone deep into this topic on this program. And I'm thinking, this is a great way to start. I'm so glad.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And you don't know me from Adam, but I don't say it if I don't mean it like that. I really do feel like that. I'm like, oh, this was great. I'm really glad we just. So I always like to close by asking people if there's anything that we haven't talked about, if there's anything I haven't asked you, or is there anything that you just feel called to share that would make this conversation complete?
Yeah, I always tell practice owners ask for more. You said that actually earlier in this episode, and I think that is a lovely general rule for healing arts professionals. Ask for more. You give a ton, and you've been trained a ton, and you care a ton, and it breaks my heart when private practice owners do all years years of work, sometimes decades of work, and settle for less. So ask for more, negotiate for more, and do your best to squeeze that rock a little harder.
Because sometimes they will say yes.
Sometimes they'll say yes.
Yes.
That's right.
That's brilliant. I want to say hallelujah, amen, amen, and amen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so important. So important.
Ask for more. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Jeremy. That's perfect. That's perfect, y'all. Isn't that perfect? I want to make that a bumper sticker. Ask for more.
Ask for more. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you guys for tuning in today. This is the kind of episode you might want to go back and listen to again and take some notes. Because there were lots of very specific details he shared today that you really can benefit from if you implement those. So I encourage you to do so. If you got questions, don't ask me about this one. Ask him.
No.
Don't ask me about this one. Yeah, go to Jeremy.
So
All right, everybody. Have an awesome week. I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope you have a beautiful week, and I can't wait to see you next week right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do one or two of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or two, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do one or two of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.